US's objective in Cuba. The U.S. Southern Command, which oversees United States military action in the Caribbean and Latin America, on Wednesday said that the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier and its strike group have arrived in the Caribbean Sea and will remain in the region for at least a few days. This is part of the Donald Trump's administration's campaign to pressure the Cuban government, according to the military's Southern Command and a U.S. official. The Donald Trump administration intends to use the Nimitz and its wing of fighter jets as a show of force, not as a platform for major military operations, the U.S. official has said on the condition of anonymity. This comes after U.S. imposed an effective oil blockade on the Caribbean nation and also after reports of Cuba acquiring drones capable of attacking the U.S. mainland came to light. Meanwhile, Cuba's ambassador to the United Nations has told in an interview to the New York Times that Cuba is open to changes to its economy and government and is eager to continue negotiations with the United States. But here's a catch. It does not believe that Washington is participating in talks in good faith. President Donald Trump has been escalating talk on regime change in Cuba after the military action in Venezuela early this year resulted in the capture of the president Nicolas Maduro. U.S. indictment of the former Cuban president Raul Castro in the latest salvo in the Donald Trump's administration's month-long pressure campaign against the Caribbean islands' socialist-controlled government. Raul Castro was charged for his alleged role in the 1996 shoot-down of two planes operated by the Miami-based exile group Brothers to the Rescue. Castro was defense minister at that time. The indictment comes amid rising tensions between Donald Trump's administrations and Cuba's government.
Today, we are announcing an indictment charging Raul Castro and several others with conspiracy to kill U.S. nationals.
U.S. Attorney General Todd Blanche on Wednesday announced the indictment of former Cuban President Raul Castro on 4 counts of murder, 1 count of conspiracy, and 2 counts of destruction of aircraft.
If you kill Americans, we will pursue you, no matter who you are, no matter what title you hold, and in this case, no matter how much time has passed.
The charges against Castro are based on a 1996 incident in which Cuban jets shot down planes operated by a group of Cuban exiles. The indictment, announced by Blanche in Miami at an event to honor the victims, represents a major escalation in Washington's pressure campaign against Cuba's communist government. Cuban President Miguel Diaz-Canel called the indictment a political maneuver devoid of any legal foundation. The Cuban government has argued that the 1996 strike was a legitimate response to the planes intruding on Cuban airspace. U.S. President Donald Trump has pushed for a regime change in Cuba, where communists have been in charge since Raul Castro's brother, Fidel, led a revolution in 1959. Former President Raul Castro remains a powerful figure in Cuban politics.
What's coming next for Cuba?
Well, we're going to see. It's a failing nation.
Following Wednesday's announcement, Trump said there won't be an escalation with Cuba.
We're freeing up Cuba.
The U.S. has effectively imposed a blockade on the island by threatening sanctions on countries supplying it with fuel, triggering power outages, and delivering blows to Cuba's already fragile economy. In a video message to the Cuban people, U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, whose parents were Cuban immigrants to the United States, offered Cuba $100 million in aid and blamed Cuba's leaders for shortages of electricity, food, and fuel. In response, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez called Rubio, quote, the mouthpiece of corrupt and vengeful interests, but did not rule out accepting the aid. The U.S. also indicted Venezuela's Nicolas Maduro in January, albeit on drug charges, then sent its military into Caracas to arrest him. 94-year-old Castro last appeared in public in Cuba earlier this month, and there is no evidence that he has since left the island or that the government would allow him to be extradited.
And to talk more on this, I'm being joined by Major General Ashwini Sivach, defense and geopolitical expert. He is also with me on the broadcast. Major General, welcome to the show. And my first question to you is very simple and plain. As US likes to call is, what do you think is the strategic objective of US when it comes to Cuba?
You know, as far as US is concerned, it feels the Western Hemisphere has to be in control of US. It has taken Venezuela. Now, the Cuba is one country which is a communist country, and it is under communism from 1959. and who can forget of a nuclear blockade or a nuclear missile episode which took place in 1962,
Right.
where America and Russia were almost very close to a nuclear war. So, as far as the Cuba is concerned, over a period of time, it is totally under the communist, and they are getting involved into drug trafficking. They are also doing a number of actions which are against the interest of US. As US has changed a regime in Venezuela, they have already warned Cuba that the regime must change, a democracy should prevail. Now, what US has done, it has done four things. The Cuba economy was more dependent on Venezuela oil. That has been totally stopped.
Right.
Also, economic sanction has been put. Nothing is coming. No food. Fuel is coming to Cuba. There is a poverty there. The government, as it is ready for collapse because their economic condition is extremely poor, and therefore the pressure is now being put on Cuba to accept the regime change, accept the terms and conditions given by the US. The US has also brought an aircraft carrier very close to Cuba. The time will tell as to when and how a regime change will take place. Possibly in near future, it can take place provided the Cuban government is ready to accept it. Otherwise, there is a chance of America, the US trying to do some operation very close to what they have done to Venezuela.
But Major General, do you think that how high is the possibility of that we will witness something similar in Cuba that we saw happening in Venezuela?
I think Venezuela was one example has been given to these countries
Okay.
that if you do not toe the line what the US is saying, you will be the next step. And possibly it is more of a threat and pressure tactics of by the US. I don't think that will be required because Cuba understand it. They don't have military power to sort of able to defend themselves in case action like Venezuela take place. And the way the situation is fanning out in Cuba, the point is that economy is now going to be collapsed. In fact, very recently they have been given some aid by Canada and Mexico. United Nations is also sending certain aid, but certainly to me it looks like that the US is prepared for every eventuality. If the Cuba does not accept the terms and conditions and there is no change of government and they don't bend their way, the time is not far off when America can also resort to something what they have done in Venezuela.
Well, that's right. And in a major development, we have seen that America has deployed its USS Nimitz aircraft carrier as well. How do you see this development? Do you think that the US is trying to eliminate some top leadership in Cuba? Because we have seen the similar pattern happening underway in Venezuela, in Iran as well.
Absolutely, it can do. See, there is no denying the fact USS Nimitz is an aircraft carrier. It has got almost 2,000 to 3,000 personnel. It has also got aircraft there. It can sort of put tremendous pressure on Cuba in case they don't agree to the terms and condition. I suppose a military option is always available as far as US is concerned. But to me, it looks like the Cuba has already seen what happened to Venezuela, and the president of Cuba is realizing it. If they go beyond a point, they will also meet the same fate. I suppose there is a chances of some sort of compromise taking place, a regime changing, a communism going, a democracy coming in Cuba. But if it does not happen, I don't think the US will hesitate to do an operation very close to what they did in Venezuela. And I don't think Cuba can resist too much. Cuba doesn't have very strong defense forces. Economy is totally gone. The people are against with the present regime. So I suppose it is better for Cuba to accept some terms and conditions of US and start fresh because as the time is passing on, their economy is shattered because there is a complete economy blockade which has been imposed by the US. The power is only coming for two hours in a day. There is no water. There is a complete water shortage. As far as the food, fuel, fertilizer, it is almost zero as far as Cuba economy is concerned. I suppose Cuba must understand if they don't, the US can repeat what they did in Venezuela.
Major General, when we see Donald Trump talk about Cuba, he has gone out and called it a failed nation. He has said that after, whenever the whole Venezuela episode happened, he said that Cuba is going to be my next target. How do you think desperate, or you can say determined, Donald Trump is about Cuba and its government?
He is very much determined. Remember, Venezuela is slightly different. Venezuela is very much rich in oil. 303 billion barrel oil is in Venezuela. It is the richest and maximum oil reserve in the world. After that is the Saudi Arabia, 267 billion barrel. So therefore, as far as Venezuela is concerned, it is very important for US, because once it captures Venezuela, which it has done indirectly, now the oil is totally under the control of US. But as far as Cuba is concerned, they don't have oil, and they are basically depending upon Venezuela. They are depending on the imports from other countries. The food also is coming from different countries. But certainly a very important as far as the US is concerned, because drugs are coming, illegal migration also come from Cuba. US will like the complete Western sphere to be under the control of US. And in case the Cuba does not bend its ways, they will also go the Venezuela way. The US will target Cuba government, and to me it looks the Cuba government knows it, and that's why they are ready to compromise. Let's see how things fan out.